"You hear me?" I said, "Get up." The officer's voice sliced through the copper kettle like broken glass, loud enough to silence every table. 3 men stood over Ashton Vance. Broad shoulders, tight jaws, and the kind of arrogance that came from believing the rules were written for everyone except him. But Ashton didn't move. He didn't even blink, because the man they were trying to intimidate wasn't just a stranger grabbing lunch. He was a storm held together by discipline, a man the city once released in its darkest hour, a man trained to track monsters, dismantle empires, and vanish before history recorded his name. The tragedy for these officers was simple. They had no idea who they had just touched. The diner's lazy afternoon hum collapsed into tension. Silverware froze midair. A waitress backed away slowly, her eyes wide. The sunlight pouring through the window dimmed behind the shadows of 3 men who thought they controlled this moment. Rhett Barron, the loud one, the leader, leaned closer. "Get up now." Ashton closed his book with calm fingers, marking his page with a folded napkin. His voice was steady, untouched by fear. "Is there a problem, Sergeant?" Barron's lips curled. "Yeah, your problem is you're making my guys uncomfortable. So your lunch? It's over." Ashton gave a quiet, patient smile. "I don't recall asking for your comfort." Holden Kessler, the enforcer, stepped in. Thick forearms, scarred knuckles. A man who used his fists to make points he didn't know how to speak. "We don't like your kind here," Kessler growled. "My kind?" Ashton asked softly. "A paying customer eating a salad?" Sawyer Shaw, the youngest of the 3, looked away, the flicker of unease already in his eyes. But Barron wasn't backing down. "This is Greenwood Heights," he sneered. "People like us keep this place clean." Ashton's expression didn't shift. "That sounds like something the owner should tell me." "Not you." That was it. Barron grabbed the front of Ashton's shirt, the dark blue silk bunch in his fist, and yanked him out of the booth. A gasp rippled across the diner, but no one moved. "Not yet." "Outside," Barron said. "Now." Ashton let them drag him, not because he was helpless, but because some men needed rope before they hung themselves. Outside, the alley swallowed the light. Garbage bins, brick walls, the hum of distant traffic. Kessler slammed Ashton against the wall, so hard the air left his lungs. Barron stepped closer, breath thick with the stench of ego. "This is a warning," Barron said. "Next time it gets worse." Kessler's fist crashed into Ashton's cheekbone, a metallic burst of pain. The officers laughed, an ugly, echoing sound. They walked away proud, believing they had taught a stranger a lesson. They didn't see the way Ashton stood perfectly still, didn't see the look in his eyes, didn't see the ancient, razor-sharp calm rising in his chest. They didn't know they had just awakened a part of him he tried every day to bury. That night, Ashton sat in the quiet of his study. The glow of his monitor lit the sharp lines of his face. Personnel files appeared on screen, names, addresses, histories, secrets. In minutes, the 3 officers' lives lay open, dissected under his gaze. Rhett Barron, corruption buried under favors, complaints sealed by insufficient evidence. Holden Kessler, gambling debts, violent outbursts, the kind of man who broke before he bent. Sawyer Shaw, a father drowning in medical bills, trapped in a job that was destroying him. Ashton titled the folder, Project Gorgon, and he began. The first move was silent but deadly. A dormant complaint resurfaced, missing evidence from a drug bust. Ashton attached geolocation data, showing Barron's patrol car in the wrong place at the wrong time. An anonymous packet landed in the deputy chief's inbox. Internal Affairs whispered within hours. Next came Kessler. Ashton traced his debts to a local bookmaker, known only as The Fix. Using a distorted voice, he made a single call. "Kessler owes you $72,000. He runs Thursday night. Warehouse 12. The Fix did not ask questions. And Shaw. Ashton watched him from afar. The hospital visits, the trembling hands, the broken man trying to save his daughter. Unlike the others, Shaw wasn't evil, just cornered by life. Ashton hesitated. But Project Gorgon required all its pieces. By Friday morning, Barron's suspension papers were drafted. Kessler's car was found abandoned at the docks. Shaw received an envelope under his door with a picture of his daughter and a warning. Walk away now. This is your last chance. Ashton watched the city's predators unravel. But then something impossible happened. His computer flickered. A message appeared without input. Welcome back, Agent Vance. We were wondering when you'd play again. His pulse froze. A symbol flashed on the screen, a black chess knight, a sigil he hadn't seen since the covert division he once served and burned itself out of existence. The Obsidian Program. Project Gorgon. Wasn't his creation after all. It was bait, and he had just taken the first step into someone else's game. And the next move? It wouldn't be his. The symbol pulsed on Ashton's screen like a heartbeat from a dead world. The Obsidian Program. Black budget, off-record, and buried after what happened in Dubai. A division built for missions no country would ever admit to ordering. Ashton leaned back slowly, breath steady but pulse sharp. Someone had mirrored his entire system. Someone had been waiting for him to act. Project Gorgon wasn't just a retaliation he thought he had initiated. It was a chessboard already set, and he had just moved the knight. The message disappeared as suddenly as it came, replaced by a line of code he recognized, a breadcrumb left by Obsidian operatives. A digital fingerprint meant to signal one thing. You're in play. But Ashton didn't panic. Men like him didn't panic. He simply closed a laptop, turned off every light except his desk lamp, and let the stillness return like an old friend. His cheeks still throbbed from Kessler's punch. His jaw ached. The bruise was blooming purple now. Still, he smiled. There was work left to finish. He turned back to the files, Barron, Kessler, Shaw, and tightened the noose. Rhett Barron cracked first. Internal Affairs had dug deeper than expected. A lieutenant who had covered for Barron in the past suddenly refused to answer questions. Barron stormed into the precinct, slamming his hands on desks, demanding explanations. Who filed a complaint? Why now? What evidence? But every answer he received made him sink deeper. The department wasn't protecting him anymore. Across town, Holden Kessler paced inside a dim garage, eyes bloodshot. His debts had tripled overnight. Manipulated odds, rigged betting lines, and silent text messages promising pain if he didn't pay. The Fix's men weren't subtle. They wanted the money by midnight. Kessler's panic curdled into rage. "This is someone setting me up," he shouted to an empty room. The shadows didn't answer. Meanwhile, Sawyer Shaw sat alone in his small apartment, staring at the picture of his daughter in the hospital bed. His wife had called twice, her voice cracking with worry. Shaw tried to reassure her, but the envelope on their table, the one containing the warning, felt heavier than a brick. He didn't know if the picture meant protection or threat. He didn't know if he was a monster or the prey. By midnight, the three men who had swaggered into the diner days earlier were unraveling like cheap thread. But Ashton wasn't done. He set traps within traps, careful patterns that matched the Obsidian Program's methodology, but with his signature precision. If someone was watching him, he would let them. If they wanted him to keep playing, he would give them a performance they wouldn't forget. He started with Barron. A second anonymous file arrived at Internal Affairs, a voice memo of Barron bragging about making evidence disappear. The audio was old but authenticated. Barron's captain summoned him quietly. "Rhett, you need to take a leave. Effective immediately." Barron's jaw locked. His sanctuary was slipping. Next, Kessler became the target of whispers on the street. Rumors spread. He had stolen from the wrong people. He had run off with cash. He had betrayed a local crew. Half the city's underworld was now looking for him. By dawn, he was a hunted man. But Ashton's most delicate move was Sawyer Shaw. He didn't want to destroy him. He wanted to break him free. Using an encrypted channel, Ashton sent Shaw a message, a single name, David Flint, defense attorney, the man who could save Shaw's daughter's future. And below the name, he sent a truth Shaw had been too afraid to face. Barron and Kessler will sacrifice you. Protect your child. Choose wisely. Shaw's hands trembled as he read it. His world split in half, loyalty on one side, survival on the other. But the deeper Ashton pushed each man, the more he could feel it. Something in the shadows was pushing back. Every keystroke echoed too loudly. Every digital footprint vanished too cleanly. Every move he made was being recorded by something unseen. By Thursday night, Ashton knew this wasn't just revenge anymore. Someone wanted to see what he would do when cornered. Someone wanted the predator awakened. They picked the wrong week. By Friday, the fallout hit. Barron's badge was suspended. Kessler's car was found abandoned. Shaw took emergency leave, clutching his daughter's hospital bills. 3 lives collapsing. And Ashton Vance? He watched from his darkened study. Fingers steepled under his chin, eyes calm but burning. Everything was proceeding exactly as he'd planned. But just as he rose to retrieve the final piece of the puzzle, his phone vibrated. A private number. No caller ID. Just a single message. We move next. Not you. Ashton froze. Someone else had just taken control of the board, and for the first time, he wasn't sure what their next move would be. The message lingered on Ashton's phone like a ghostly fingerprint. We move next. Not you. That wasn't a threat. It was a declaration. Someone else was playing the game now, and they were confident enough to tell him to his face. But Ashton didn't break stride. He returned to his desk, reopened the files, and continued dismantling the 3 officers' lives with the same cold precision that had once made the Obsidian program unstoppable. Because if someone wanted to challenge him, they would first have to survive what he had already set in motion. Holden Kessler broke next. It began with a seemingly harmless update to his sports betting app. Odds shifting, lines jumping, small changes most gamblers would ignore. But Kessler wasn't most gamblers. He was desperate, angry, and reckless, and Ashton exploited every weakness. He fed Kessler guaranteed tips through an anonymous source. Game after game, the impossible became inevitable. Kessler lost everything. $5,000, $12,000, $30,000. By the time the sun rose the next day, Holden Kessler owed more money than he had ever made in his entire career. And the fix didn't care about excuses. A black SUV followed him home. A man stepped out without speaking. He simply held up 3 fingers. 3 days. Kessler felt the blood drain from his face. 3 days to pay $72,000, or his family would receive condolences instead of apologies. He screamed into his steering wheel until his throat went raw. Then he did something even he never believed he'd do. He stole $10,000 in evidence money from a narcotics locker, stuffing it into a gym bag with trembling hands. But Ashton was already ahead of him. He orchestrated a fake high-stakes poker night and ensured Kessler was invited, a room filled with predators disguised as card players. Kessler sat down thinking he could double his stolen money. Instead, he lost everything in one brutal hand. The men at the table didn't cheer, didn't smirk. They simply stared at him with a look that said, "Your life just ended." Kessler stumbled out into the night, broken from the inside. Rhett Barron wasn't doing any better. Internal affairs bled him dry. Anonymous tips, old recordings, financial inconsistencies, a patrol log that put him at crime scenes he shouldn't have been near. His captain no longer took his calls. His lieutenant avoided him in the hallway. Even his wife asked him a question he never thought he'd hear. "Rhett, what else aren't you telling me?" The seed of doubt became a wildfire. Someone messaged her directly. Ask him where the rest of the money went. She did. Barron lied. She knew. That night, she took their son and left the house without looking back. Rhett Barron punched a hole through the wall. Then another. Then collapsed on the floor, breathing like a man drowning on dry land. But Sawyer Shaw, he was different. Asterisk, asterisk. Shaw sat outside the children's hospital, hands shaking around a styrofoam cup of bad coffee. He watched through the window as a nurse adjusted his daughter's blanket, watched the monitors beep, watched the fragile rise and fall of her chest. Sawyer wasn't a monster. He was a father losing a war. He didn't know how to win. Ashton knew this. It was why he used a softer approach. An anonymous text arrived. "There's still a way out for you." A second message followed. A link to a supposed charitable foundation offering grants for experimental treatment. The kind of help Shaw had prayed for, but never received. He clicked without hesitation. But what came next wasn't hope. It was pressure. A photo of Kessler handing an envelope to a known bookie. A highlighted line in the police evidence log showing missing funds. A note, Barron and Kessler will let you take the fall. Choose your daughter. Shaw dropped his phone. His heart slammed against his ribs. He wasn't being manipulated. He was being cornered by reality. By the time he got home, he was shaking so violently he could barely unlock his door. And that was when Ashton made the final move. Shaw's phone rang. No caller ID. He answered with a frightened whisper. All he heard was a 30-second recording of his daughter laughing, a sound too pure to belong in the darkness swallowing his life. Then a voice, distorted beyond recognition, said, "A man standing in a burning building doesn't get to pretend the fire isn't his problem." The line clicked off. Sawyer Shaw cried for the first time in years. But Ashton's surveillance caught something he didn't expect. Asterisk, asterisk. His secure terminal lit up again, this time with a different message. You're playing beautifully, but you miscalculated one thing. Ashton's jaw tightened. A second line appeared. You're not the only predator in the city anymore. And then a live feed opened on his screen. Someone was watching Barron, watching Kessler, watching Shaw. Not Ashton's cameras, not his trackers, not his software. Someone else had eyes inside the same game. Someone with access he shouldn't have. Someone who wanted Ashton to know, we're inside your operation, and we move next. Ashton leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Whoever they weren't just observing. They were hunting, and predators only warn their prey once. The live feed flickered like a warning pulse on Ashton's monitor. Unknown source, unknown access point, unknown intention. But the message behind it was loud and unmistakable. Someone else was shaping the downfall of Barron, Kessler, and Shaw. Someone who wasn't afraid of Ashton Vance, because they believed they could match him. Ashton didn't panic. He observed. He listened. He memorized every pixel, every timestamp, every anomaly in the code. Whoever this shadow player was, they were precise, confident, and they had access to surveillance tools even Obsidian once struggled to obtain. This wasn't a rival. It was an equal, maybe worse. Rhett Barron noticed the pressure first. Internal Affairs called him back for what they described as a follow-up meeting. It wasn't a meeting. It was an interrogation. 3 investigators. A recorder on the table. A stack of printouts marked with yellow highlights. Barron kept his jaw squared, his arrogance still clinging to him like cheap cologne. But he couldn't fake the tremor in his hands when they asked, "Sergeant Barron, where were you on a night evidence went missing from CCPD Case 404? "It wasn't me." "Then explain this." They slid geolocation data across the table. Data Ashton had planted. Barron stared at it, swallowed, then forced a laugh that sounded more like a choke. "Someone's framing me." One of the investigators leaned back, unimpressed. "We're not here to discuss fantasies. We're here to discuss your suspension." Barron's ego cracked like glass. The first domino had fallen. Meanwhile, Holden Kessler's world was collapsing faster. His bookie's men followed him everywhere. In the grocery store, at the gas station, even outside the precinct. He tried to explain. "They set me up. Someone's manipulating the odds." They didn't care. They weren't mathematicians. They were debt collectors. And they wanted their $72,000. By the third day, Kessler stopped showing up to work. He barricaded himself inside his apartment, pacing with a gun in his hand, mumbling to himself. He called Barron repeatedly. No answer. He called Shaw. Ignored. He called his wife. She hung up. Kessler sank onto the floor, gun trembling in his grip. "I'll kill whoever did this," he whispered. "I swear to God, I'll kill them." But the shadows watching him through the live feed didn't react. The unseen observer simply zoomed in. Click, record, archive, and then there was Sawyer Shaw, the man Ashton didn't want to destroy. But someone else did. Asterisk, asterisk. Shaw sat in his patrol car during a late-night solo shift. staring at an envelope he hadn't opened yet. Inside was the photo Ashton had sent. Proof. Evidence. Warning. But what came next wasn't Ashton's doing. A new envelope dropped onto his dashboard. Silently, without anyone touching the car. Shaw froze. His breath caught. He opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a flash drive. A single line written in clean, cold handwriting. Watch this. Choose loyalty or survival. Shaw swallowed hard. Plugged it into the onboard laptop. The video that played wasn't from Ashton. It was footage of internal police corruption. Barron beating a handcuffed suspect. Kessler pocketing money. Shaw himself hesitating during a violent arrest. Enough to implicate him by association. This wasn't a warning. It was leverage. A digital gun held to his head. Shaw panicked. Hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles went white. His phone buzzed. A new message, again not from Ashton. We move next. Back in his study, Ashton tracked the anomalies. This wasn't random. This wasn't a hacker. This wasn't a lone wolf. This was a coordinated move by someone with access to advanced intel law enforcement backdoors and surveillance networks Ashton didn't know still existed. All built on Obsidian program infrastructure. But Obsidian had been shut down. The members scattered. The file sealed. And yet, the code he saw on his screen, it was unmistakably Obsidian, which meant one of three things. 1. Someone rebuilt the program in secret. 2. Someone stole the technology. 3. Someone who used to stand beside him survived the purge. Ashton's heartbeat didn't change, but his jaw tightened. This wasn't revenge anymore. This wasn't justice. This was a summons. Someone was pulling him back into the world he had sworn never to enter again. Then it happened. The second domino fell. Asterisk, asterisk. Kessler's car was found abandoned near the docks. Driver door open. Key still in the ignition. No Kessler. No trace. Just a smear of blood on the steering wheel. Police sirens echoed to the night as officers gathered, whispering in tight circles. Barron arrived, pale and shaking. Shaw stayed silent, eyes haunted. Ashton watched from his monitor. He didn't move, didn't react, because a live feed on his screen showed something the officers at the docks could not see. Kessler didn't disappear. He was taken, and the figure who dragged him into the warehouse wasn't a criminal. It was someone wearing tactical gear, government-grade gear, Obsidian-grade gear. Ashton leaned forward, voice barely a whisper. So you're still alive. A third message appeared on his screen. Your move, Agent Vance. But it wasn't his move. The board had already changed, and the predator hunting him had just revealed their first shadow. The trap was no longer his. The warehouse footage looped again on Ashton's monitor, each frame tightening the knot in his mind. The tactical gear, the precision, the silent takedown. None of it matched street-level violence. None of it matched gang tactics. This was military, government, a ghost unit extraction. Obsidian. Someone had rebuilt the ruin he'd walked away from. Someone was hunting dirty cops, yes, but they were also hunting him. And now Kessler was gone. But Ashton didn't fear the shadow in the footage. What he feared was the message behind the method. They weren't just stepping onto his chessboard. They were trying to flip it. He closed the feed, opened his encrypted archive, and began preparing for the night he knew was coming. Because men like Barron and Kessler didn't go quietly. And when cornered, predators always did the same thing. They returned to the first person they blamed. Him. Across the city, Rhett Barron's rage reached a breaking point. It started with a pounding at Shaw's door. Shaw answered, eyes red and exhausted. Barron barged in, fists clenched, jaw trembling with fury. Where's Kessler? Barron demanded. Shaw shook his head. I haven't seen him. You're lying. Someone's playing us against each other. Shaw's voice cracked. Rhett, someone sent me videos. Of you. Of Holden. Of me. Barron froze. What videos? Shaw's silence was the answer. Barron's face twisted. Fear disguised as anger. He grabbed Shaw by the collar, slammed him against the wall. Listen to me, Barron hissed. This wasn't supposed to happen. Someone setting us up, Someone who knows everything. We find him. We end him. Tonight. Shaw didn't reply. He simply stared down at the floor, breath shaking. Barron didn't care. He stormed out of the apartment, slamming the door hard enough to crack the frame. Shaw slid to the ground, burying his face in his hands. He wasn't just scared anymore. He was broken. But Ashton knew the next move wasn't Shaw. It was Barron, asterisk, asterisk. And Barron was predictable, prideful, violent, unstable. By 10 p.m., Ashton had already prepared his home. Micro cameras activated, voice recorders primed, motion sensors armed, strategic lighting arranged to capture every violent angle. This wasn't paranoia. This was experience. Predators rarely came during the day. They came when fear felt strongest, when anger needed blood, when men like Barron convinced themselves they had nothing left to lose. So Ashton waited, his cheeks still bruised, his expression calm, his breathing controlled. Then, a car door slammed outside. 2 sets of footsteps. Fast, aggressive. He didn't need to guess who it was. The knock hit his door like a battering ram. Ashton, open up. Barron's voice, shaking with panic, drowning in fury. Ashton opened the door slowly, almost calmly. Barron pushed inside, without permission. Kessler wasn't with him. No, Kessler was with him, just not the way he used to be. Barron was bleeding at the knuckles. His eyes were red. He was sweating. Kessler stood behind him, hollow and trembling, like a puppet ripped apart and put back together wrong. His cheek was bruised, his shirt torn, his hand shaking. Someone had already worked him over. They weren't here to intimidate Ashton. They were here to beg for the truth and bleed their fear into violence. Barron grabbed Ashton by the collar. "What did you do to us?" he yelled. "What the hell did you start?" Kessler's voice wavered. "Who's hunting us, Vance?" "Who?" Ashton didn't flinch. "You came into my home uninvited," he said calmly. "You don't get to ask questions." Barron slammed him against the wall, so hard the cameras shook. The hit was brutal. Angry, panicked, Kessler lunged too, shoving Ashton again. Every violent second captured from 4 perfect angles. Barron's voice cracked. "This is your last warning. Stay away from our families, or next time we bury you." They stormed out, slamming the door behind them. Ashton slid down the wall, breath steady, cheek throbbing. Then he lifted his eyes to the nearest camera, and for the first time that night, he smiled. A slow, cold, triumphant smile. "Checkmate," he whispered. What happened next wasn't anger. It was strategy, asterisk, asterisk. Ashton edited the footage meticulously. Clip 1, the officers forcing entry. Clip 2, the unlawful assault. Clip 3, Barron threatening death. Clip 4, Kessler's terrified, unraveling confession. 4 angles, 4 truths, 1 perfect narrative. He created 3 versions. Full case file, FBI field office. 2-minute explosive montage, National News Network. Screenshot package, every local journalist in the city. He hit send. The explosion was immediate. Barron and Kessler became the lead story by sunrise. The headline screamed across every screen. 2 officers accused in federal assault scandal. FBI investigating. Their faces everywhere. Their careers obliterated. Their lives ruined. Barron went into hiding. Kessler stopped answering calls. Shaw requested immediate protective custody. Ashton watched it all unfold with quiet precision. He didn't celebrate, didn't exhale, didn't relax, because he knew the storm wasn't finished. Someone else was still on the board. Someone who had taken Kessler. Someone who sent the messages. Someone who wore obsidian gear. Someone who knew Ashton well enough to push him back into the world he escaped. His phone vibrated. One message. A single line. Endgame is approaching, Ashton. Ashton stared at it. Expression unreadable. The next move would change everything. For hours, the city buzzed like a live wire. Barron and Kessler were everywhere. News broadcasts, radio alerts, trending hashtags, investigative reports. Their faces looped on every screen in every diner, gas station, and precinct hallway. Ashton watched the chaos from his darkened study, the monitors casting ghost blue light across his face. Every angle of the footage he'd released was playing on repeat. Every lie the officers told over the years was being dragged into daylight. But Ashton felt no triumph. Not yet, because a real predator, the one in obsidian gear, the one who took Kessler, the one watching Ashton's digital moves, hadn't shown their face. They were waiting, letting the humiliation boil, letting the pressure mount, letting the collapse echo. And then, when the city could no longer ignore the scandal, the moment came. A private message popped up on Ashton's encrypted line. Conference Room 9, Downtown Law Office. Tonight, you are expected. No threats, no bravado, just an invitation, a command. Ashton didn't hesitate. He put on his jacket, stepped into the cold night air, and walked toward the meeting that had been waiting for him since the first punch landed in the alley behind the copper kettle. Inside the downtown law building, silence hung like dust. The receptionist nodded without speaking. Ashton walked past her, through the quiet corridors, until he reached a door marked private. He opened it. Rhett Barron and Holden Kessler were already inside, both seated, both hollow, both stripped of their former swagger. Men who just watched the world take everything from them. Kessler's eyes were bloodshot, haunted. Barron's jaw clenched in a desperate attempt to look strong. They weren't expecting Shaw. They weren't expecting mercy. They were expecting a miracle. And what they got instead was Ashton. Barron stood abruptly. "You," he spat. "You set us up. You destroyed us." Kessler glared with shaking hands. "Where's Shaw? We know you turned him against us." Ashton shut the door behind him, locking it with a soft click. "Shaw isn't coming," he said. Their eyes widened. "He's in a federal safe house," Ashton continued, stepping forward, giving a full confession. Kessler swore under his breath. Barron's shoulders sank, just slightly. "He chose his daughter," Ashton said. "He made the right choice." Barron grabbed the table, knuckles white. "Who the hell are you, Vance?" Ashton didn't answer. "Not yet." Instead, he reached into his jacket. Barron flinched. Kessler tensed. Ashton pulled out his wallet. Then he flipped the badge face up on the table. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Special Agent Ashton Vance. The air left the room. Kessler's voice cracked. "You're FBI?" Ashton's tone was ice. "You thought I was just some man who didn't belong. Some outsider. Some threat to your pride." He leaned forward, voice low enough to cut bone. "Your bigotry was the weapon I used against you." Barron swallowed hard, sweat forming at his temple. "You played us," he whispered. "No," Ashton replied. "I exposed you." He circled the table like a lecturer addressing students who'd finally understood the lesson. "You thought the world was simple. Predators and prey. But you never once considered that you might not be the most dangerous predators in your ecosystem." Barron trembled. Kessler tried to speak. Failed, tried again. "What happens now?" Ashton stopped behind them. "You lose your homes," he said quietly. "You lose your pensions. You lose whatever illusions you had left about the power you thought you held." Then he stepped back into the light. "And he shrugged lightly. "I will enjoy a quiet lunch." He turned toward the door. Barron's voice shook as he forced out. "You can't just walk out." Ashton didn't even look back. "I already have." The door shut behind him with a final, echoing click. 3 days later, the copper kettle felt different. The sunlight returned to its gentle glow. The soft hum of silverware was no longer broken by arrogance or cruelty. The waitress recognized Ashton as soon as he entered. "You're back," she said softly. The owner appeared from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a towel. "Meals on the house today," he said. "After what you went through, you've earned it." Ashton nodded, not out of pride, but acknowledgement. He took the same booth, ordered the same steak salad, opened a new book. Peace, real peace, settled into the room like warm air. He finished his meal, paid anyway, left a generous tip. Then he walked out of the diner, the quiet following him like a shadow. But peace was never permanent for men like Ashton, because as he approached his home, he felt it A presence. Someone watching. Someone waiting. Someone who knew exactly who he was and what he was capable of. The Obsidian program wasn't dead, and tonight it would remind him why he never truly escaped. The night settled over Greenwood Heights like a warning whispered through the trees. Cold, still, unnatural, as Ashton walked up the path to his house. Every instinct he had ever trained clawed its way to the surface. The silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It was staged. He paused at his front step. Not a twitch, not a sound, not even the hum of passing cars. Just a presence. Unseen, calculated, deliberate. Ashton reached slowly for the door. It opened before he touched it. A figure stepped out from the shadows of his living room. Not armed, not frantic, but composed, purposeful. A woman in a dark gray tactical coat. Her posture perfect. Her eyes scanning him with surgical precision. Someone who wasn't afraid of him. Someone who understood what he was. Ashton Vance, she said quietly. Still predictable. Still dangerous. Ashton's pulse didn't change. Obsidian, he replied. Who rebuilt it? She didn't smile, but something flickered in her eyes. Recognition, maybe respect. You walked away, she said. But the world didn't. The program never truly died. It adapted. And Kessler? Ashton asked. Alive, she replied. For now, he knows things we needed. Ashton stepped closer. What do you want from me? She handed him a sealed envelope. Thick, heavy. A choice, she said. You can go back to your quiet little lunches, your minimalist house, your books, your false peace. She took one deliberate step forward. Or you can help us finish what Obsidian started. Ashton didn't speak. The night held its breath. You were the best we ever had, she added. And someone out there hasn't forgotten that. With that, she walked past him, disappearing into the darkness as silently as she arrived. A shadow among shadows. Ashton remained still for a long moment, the envelope weighing down his hand like a verdict. He finally opened it. Inside were photos, documents, coordinates, patterns only an agent trained in the deepest Black Ops division could decipher. And on the last page, a single line handwritten in ink that bled with certainty. You are still one of U.S. A cold wind drifted through the doorway. The house felt different now, not like a sanctuary, but like a reminder. He closed the door gently. Ashton Vance didn't sigh, didn't panic, didn't run. He simply whispered into the quiet. Peace never lasts. The shadows seemed to nod in agreement, because for a man like him, a man forged in silence, sharpened by violence, and shaped by secrets, there was only one truth. He was never meant to be ordinary. He was meant to be the weapon. If this story pulled you in, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss another pulse-pounding cinematic tale from Black Rise. Here's a quick question for you. If you were Ashton, would you go back to normal life or step into the shadows again? Sometimes, the hardest battle isn't the enemy in front of us. It's the version of ourselves we thought we buried.